TV brands are promoting 120 Hz, 144 Hz, and even 165 Hz panels more aggressively than ever, which can make a 60 Hz television sound obsolete before you have even compared the actual picture quality. However, most of what people watch never exceeds 60 frames per second, and many popular games still run at either 30 or 60 FPS, which means a faster panel can be either a major upgrade or an expensive feature you rarely use. By the end of this video, you will know exactly when 60 Hz is still enough, when 120 Hz genuinely improves the experience, and which other TV features may matter more than refresh rate. To understand the difference, refresh rate simply tells you how many times the television can update its image every second. A 60 Hz panel can display up to 60 unique frames per second, while a 120 Hz panel can display up to 120. That sounds like a dramatic advantage, but the television can only show the frames it receives, which means the movie, broadcast, console, or computer must also produce content at a higher frame rate before the faster panel can reveal its full benefit. For everyday television and streaming, 60 Hz is still much more capable than the marketing may suggest. Films are commonly created at 24 frames per second, while television and online video can arrive at 24, 25, 30, 50, or 60 frames per second depending on the content and region. A 60 Hz television can display all of that content, and when its picture processing is good, movies, Netflix, YouTube, and regular television can look excellent without a native 120 Hz panel. A 120 Hz television can still have an advantage with movies because 120 divides evenly by 24, allowing each film frame to be repeated 5 times. A 60 Hz model may need to use a different frame pattern or additional processing, which can introduce a small amount of judder during slow camera movements. Some viewers notice this immediately, while many never think about it. So the improvement is real without necessarily being important enough to justify a more expensive television on its own. Sports create another area where the answer is less obvious than it first appears. Most sports broadcasts are not delivered at 120 frames per second, which means a 120 Hz television is not receiving twice as much real motion information from the game. Premium 120 Hz models may still look cleaner because they often combine their faster panels with better motion processing, stronger upscaling, and more capable picture processors. But a high-quality 60 Hz television can still be perfectly enjoyable for football, basketball, racing, and other live events. This is why refresh rate should never be judged in isolation. A television with a 120 Hz panel can still have weak contrast, poor HDR brightness, slow pixel response, or distracting motion artifacts, while a well-designed 60 Hz model may offer better black levels, more accurate colors, and a more convincing picture for the same price. If you mainly watch movies and streaming shows, those picture quality differences could matter far more than the refresh rate number printed on the box. Gaming is where 60 Hz becomes a more meaningful limitation, although the type of games you play matters enormously. A 60 Hz television can display games at up to 60 frames per second, which is still the target for many console performance modes and remains smooth enough for story-driven adventures, role-playing games, strategy titles, and casual multiplayer. If most of your favorite games run at either 30 or 60 FPS, a good 60 Hz television is not wasting frames, and the experience can still feel responsive when game mode keeps input lag low. The situation changes with games that support 120 frames per second. PlayStation 5 supports 4K video output at 120 Hz, while Xbox Series X can run supported games at up to 120 FPS, although those modes are not available in every title and may reduce resolution or visual detail to achieve the higher frame rate. When a game offers a well-implemented 120 FPS mode, the improvement in motion clarity and responsiveness can be easy to feel, particularly in shooters, racing games, fighting games, and other fast competitive experiences. There is a measurable reason for that difference. At 60 Hz, a new refresh occurs every 16.7 milliseconds, while at 120 Hz, that interval falls to approximately 8.3 milliseconds. The The television is not automatically cutting every part of your total input lag in half, because the game engine, controller, console, and display processing also contribute. But the faster refresh gives the screen more opportunities to present a newly completed frame, which can make aiming, steering, and camera movement feel more immediate. Variable refresh rate can be just as important as the maximum refresh rate because VRR allows a compatible television to adjust its refresh timing to the frames produced by a console or gaming PC. This helps reduce tearing, judder, and stutter when performance changes. So when comparing TVs, you should check for VRR and auto low latency mode rather than assuming that every model marketed for gaming includes the same features. But if you are currently comparing 60Hz and 120Hz televisions, I have linked several strong options in the description below, where you can check today's prices, availability, and buyer reviews. TV prices change frequently throughout the year, and a discount can sometimes move a much better 120Hz model surprisingly close to the cost of a basic 60Hz television. PC gamers have another decision to make, because a capable gaming computer can often produce more than 60 frames per second across a much wider range of titles. If your graphics card regularly delivers 90, 120, or more frames per second, a 60Hz television becomes a clear bottleneck because it cannot display all of those frames. In that situation, a 120Hz, 144Hz, or 165Hz panel can provide smoother motion and lower perceived latency, although you still need to verify that the television supports the desired refresh rate at the resolution you plan to use. The resolution detail is important because some TVs advertise extremely high refresh rates through modes that only work at 1080p or 1440p, rather than full 4K. A television may promote 240Hz or even higher through a gaming accelerator feature, while its native 4K limit remains 120Hz or 144Hz. So you should always check the supported input resolutions instead of relying only on the largest number in the marketing. There is also a difference between a native refresh rate and motion smoothing. Some 60Hz televisions use software-generated frames to make movies or sports appear smoother, and manufacturers may attach names such as motion rate or an equally impressive marketing number to that processing. Those features can change how motion looks, but they do not transform a native 60Hz panel into a true 120Hz gaming display, and they cannot accept a real 4K 120fps signal from your console or PC. For someone buying a television mainly for movies, Netflix, YouTube, cable, and occasional gaming, 60Hz remains completely reasonable in 2026, especially when choosing the faster panel would require sacrificing screen size, contrast, brightness, or local dimming. A strong 60Hz television is not obsolete simply because higher numbers exist, and many viewers may never use the capabilities they would be paying extra to receive. A 60Hz TV can also be a sensible choice for a bedroom, guest room, kitchen, or secondary entertainment space where gaming is not the priority. In those situations, paying more for better brightness, a larger screen, or a stronger smart platform may improve the everyday experience more than moving from 60Hz to 120Hz. For a PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series X owner who mostly plays cinematic single-player games at 30 or 60 frames per second, 60Hz can still be enough. Although choosing 120Hz gives you access to high frame rate modes and provides greater flexibility over the life of the television. If you regularly play competitive games, want the smoothest console experience available, or expect to keep the TV through several years of new releases, moving to a native 120Hz model becomes much easier to justify. There is another benefit to 120Hz that is sometimes overlooked. Some console games offer 40 FPS quality modes, which can provide a useful middle ground between the visual detail of a 30 FPS mode and the smoother movement of a 60 FPS mode. A 120Hz display can present 40 FPS evenly because each frame remains on the screen for 3 refresh cycles, while a conventional 60Hz display cannot divide evenly into 40. That does not matter for every game, but it gives compatible 120Hz televisions more flexibility when developers provide multiple performance options. A Future-proofing also deserves consideration, although it should not become an excuse to overpay. If you plan to keep your next television for 7 or 8 years, a 120Hz model is more likely to accommodate future consoles, gaming PCs, and high frame rate modes. However, buying a poor television today for a feature you may use years from now makes little sense when a better 60Hz model could deliver superior contrast, brightness, color, and HDR during everything you watch right now. The decision therefore comes down to what you would have to give up. If a 120Hz television fits comfortably within your budget and still provides the picture quality and screen size you want, it is the better long-term purchase because it can do everything a 60Hz model can while adding smoother gaming and more flexible motion handling. However, if the upgrade forces you into a smaller screen or a television with weaker contrast and HDR, choosing the better 60Hz picture may give you more enjoyment during the content you actually watch every day. So, is a 60Hz TV good enough in 2026? For movies, streaming, regular television, and casual gaming, the answer is still yes. For competitive console gaming, high frame rate PC gaming, or anyone specifically buying a television to use 120 FPS modes, the answer is probably no. The mistake is not buying a 60Hz television. The mistake is buying one without first checking whether your favorite games and devices are already capable of going beyond it. If you would like to compare current prices, availability, and buyer reviews for some of the best 60Hz and 120Hz TVs, you will find the links in the description below. Before you spend more simply because one number is higher, make sure the rest of the television is actually better because refresh rate matters, but it remains only one part of the picture.